It's silent video of us gesticulating and talking.
We'll not post that video.
I think that one won't get to YouTube.
Probably
Can
not.
You guys hear us?
They can. Okay, to summarize what we covered in the first 5 minutes of the podcast. 1, you'll notice a slightly different background. This is because I just moved. That's why we've been off the air for the last couple weeks. I am Brian, ANST Apocalypse. That's Bucky, ARST Apocalypse Northeast. And I think with all our digressions, that was pretty much it. But we did go to ECRE last weekend, the East Central Regional event. We drove down. It was a 9-hour drive there. We played in the event, and I helped run it. And then it was 9 hours back, which was really stupid, and let's not do that again. Okay, I feel like we've caught ourselves up.
Yes. Well, you know, half car will travel. That's I love long haul driving. Like,
Oh yeah, Bucky drove the whole way there and the whole way back. He doesn't let me drive.
Well, I have a stick.
Man, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. We drive my car. You don't let me. You just drive.
I
don't. I'm not gonna complain.
I just love driving.
It's a sickness I take advantage of.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I also love driving in terrible weather, which we got. We drove through a storm. It was pretty intense. Speaking of terrible weather, ice storms canceled the local games.
Yeah, Buffalo, Hamilton, and I believe Toronto all canceled today because of the storm. And it's 80 degrees in Pittsburgh. I hate Pittsburgh. That's only like 70 miles from here.
Earlier, when you couldn't hear us, I was trying to figure out exactly what's going on with the color correction of our camera.
Well, this is an important note that should not be overlooked.
It's important to me because I'm looking at myself in picture, and I look like I'm wearing a blue-gray hoodie. Now, for the people who were at ECRE, this is a violently purple hoodie. Like, this is something if the Joker was cast as like an angsty millennial would wear. And it's so mind-boggling to look down.
I look, it's purple. I look, it's blue. It's purple, blue.
Right, I don't...
Color is a lie.
You know, you can't know if your blue is somebody else's blue, but now I know that you barely know what we look like.
But my hat is the exact same shading color. My hat is the same. Look at my hat.
But check out your shirt, though. It looks like yellow text with maybe a shadow. There is a pink outline around the word winter that you basically can't see.
Maybe that pink is what's throwing everything off. It's confusing it.
I don't know.
Who can say? But
my kingdom for an AV nerd. Like, if we knew one AV nerd who knew what they were doing,
then we would be in a very different world right now.
Kings.
Yeah. So ECRE. ECRE was what I liked about ECRE was it was this is gonna sound.
We should narrow it down. What we liked about ECRE.
Well,
Apocalypse, because
we know nothing.
It's not that we went to a con and drove back. We went to one game slot for APOC, then drove back. And I felt bad because I ran into some people I know, and they were like, "Hey, what are you playing?" Like I ran into like Ron, who was I played Sabat with, and I was like, "Oh, we're just here for APOC." And I was like, "I don't even think they have Sabat here." And I was like, well, whatever. We're only here for APOC, then we're turning around. It was such a weird moment where they're like, everyone had basically the same reaction. Oh, that's insane. Welcome to Florence, Kentucky.
Well, we're not driving to the Southwest Regional event next month. We should make clear on that. I am not driving to Arizona somewhere, I believe it is. That might be a bit much to ask. But Tristan is going to do a great job.
Yes. Full faith and confidence.
Tristan Turner is running the Southwest Regional event next month. Tristan Turner is also my new chief of staff as Jamie stepped down. So
I saw that posted. Congratulations. I think I liked and commented.
It's good. You fulfilled your responsibilities then. It's good.
Thoughts and prayers.
Tristan's going to kick some serious ass at Southwest Regional event. I'm really looking forward to hearing how it goes. And then it's on to national event. And we're going to talk a little more about the national event later in the show. But now, digressions aside, let's talk about ECRE. Structurally, this was, I'm always hammering in this on con storytellers, is make it simple. Make it simple, make it simple, make it simple. Just because you don't have a lot of time, you got to get in, get out, you have a lot of players to spread information to. And I thought they did a good job of it, but still, having 2 serial combats still turned out to be not enough, like time-wise. That's hard.
Yeah, well, I think the big first battle was split into 4?
Yeah, 4 or 5 parallel groups, yeah.
And you can only go as fast as I don't want to say your slowest ST because it was...
Because sometimes shit happens, and Paul was running the one that went the longest, but he
Right.
had player deaths and all sorts of stuff.
He even said...
Character deaths.
He even said, we'll be out of there as fast as our slowest ST, and that's half an hour. And I was like, that is noble. But a scene has to go as long as it has to go, because you can't be like, this is all very dramatic, and I'm glad you're RPing, but wrap it up. Like, you don't want to do that.
You don't want your ST making this. You don't want your ST making this signal.
Yeah, you don't want them to have to play you off with music. So you're in that sort of like weird you get a Hobson's choice where you don't want to rush through anything. You want to give everybody every opportunity to avail themselves of role playing opportunities, especially if if characters are dying. That's going to slow things down in the best way, because they're going to react to that and they're going to want to talk about it, and you don't want to be like, find another room. That's a little short shrift. Right. But even though that went long, there was still a lot of other things going on. I ended up...
you ended up sitting out the combats.
I did.
Because Bucky was only playing in this game, so you had to play.
Yes, I was only playing. I had the perspective of a person who didn't go to any of those combats, which is I didn't do anything. That's not to cast any aspersions, it's just what happened. There was a temporary warder, then there was a full-time warder, and then there was orders given, and I ended up with, I think, a relatively sizable group of people who were initially ordered to protect the cairn and be like the heal squad or backup, or there were some other plans, and after, I would say, about an hour and a half of not doing anything, they got bored and said, we're just going to go into the other scenes, and I said, that's cool. I'm a foster, and I'm going to follow the orders I was...
They can all see you crawling.
Darn it.
That was Miss talking about werewolves with a brief cameo.
But yeah, so I was like, well, I was ordered to protect a cairn by a warder. So I just made the most of it. I ran into some Farah, I made some friends, even made some friends on Facebook. We just had a good time. Just enjoying the soft RP, but there wasn't really anything outside of those scenes or outside of the end scene, which then the slot ended. So that's a logistical problem that also happens when you only have one slot. This is one other thing. If you run APOC, I always prefer APOC as a 2-slot game because it has a fun, awesome combat section. But it also has like all of the moots and slap dances and all of the rich social tapestry, and having to do just one of those, or God forbid trying to do both in a 4-hour time frame, that's madness. Like no one can do that.
Well, we're gonna try to do that.
Right.
We have 5 hours.
You're 5 hours. Oh, hooray! What I'm saying is that is daunting, and for everybody out there planning conventions, show APOC a little love. Give them 2 sessions.
That is not me saying that.
Oh no, that's me saying that. As a player, that's huge because a lot of stuff went down, a lot of combat happened, and people I RP'd with at that game don't have that character anymore, and that would be awesome to play like the day after. Like the moot or the telling of the rights or just an after action report. But that's just something we're gonna have to do online.
Well, we'll also be at the con the whole weekend, like the whole long weekend. So if people want to, informal stuff, we'll definitely be there for that, and we'll be supporting that. But the other big stuff about ECRE, very stone simple event, very local in focus, which is a good thing sometimes. It's very similar to Kane, which had a raid on a great cairn, essentially, a little more complicated than that. So we've had 2 cons this year, and they've both been kind of low-stake monster fight sort of deals, and that's good. The next 2 are going to be a little more intense, I think, like a little more heavy lifting with the plot and everything. So I hope you enjoy those cons. If you were was anybody actually at both Kane and ECRE? I would love to hear if somebody actually made both those trips. That would be incredible. He's in Vancouver.
Oh yeah, that would be
a thing.
It would be pretty interesting. I never get to Canada these days, mostly now because I don't have a passport. So
you still haven't got your passport? Every month that goes by, I have to say still.
My shame, we have a passport office. We have a real city. Buffalo is a real city. I have a place I could pretty much just show up to with an appointment and walk out with my new passport. I don't really have any. I got nothing. I just I feel terrible about it. And there's things I do in Canada semi-regularly I haven't done in the last couple of months, pretty much because of that. So I miss St. Catharines and their many independent music like venues and all-you-can-eat sushi places. Although I can't really do those, but they're still all-you-can-eat sashimi places.
That's fine.
That's even more bang for your buck.
Much more likely to get parasites. It's good. Just load up. You just eat a gallon of fish.
You can deal with that. Just swallow a couple of peach pits. I mean, you might piss blood, but you'll kill anything that's floating around in you. That is okay. Also, hashtag not a doctor. Don't listen to me.
Don't please accept.
Please do not poison yourself by eating the pits of stone fruits. I heard that works, but I also heard that worked from like a 90-year-old 40 years ago. Oh. So don't.
For what it's worth, I can leave the country. And I am looking forward to hitting Hamilton or Toronto whenever it's convenient for me. I keep meaning to because you guys are so bloody close, and I love the Canadian games. I love what they do. I really have no. This is what I have no excuse for, is me not visiting the Hamilton and Toronto games. I just haven't really had time.
To be fair, for all the years I did have a passport, I managed not to go to Hamilton or London or Ontario or
You did.
Any of the which ones?
Didn't you? Oh no, I went with MacDoughal.
No,
you never went. You antisocial fuck.
I'm really not. I just, for some reason, I never managed to go to... I'm more likely to end up at a game in Cleveland. And not even because there's no border involved, because this is way further for me to go to Cleveland.
It is much further. Cleveland's much further than Toronto.
For example, Florence, Kentucky. Apparently I am to drive 40 minutes north, if even. I don't know why. It's just kismet.
You just afraid of foreigners?
I'm afraid of Americans.
Oh, that's fair, as am I. Gosh, you can tell we've been off the air for a while because we are more digression-y than usual.
Oh, things that were great. I met, what's his name? Diamond.
Diamond, I just wanted to give a special call out to Diamond.
His Red Talon, Eater of Bears, who I've RP'd with, but now actually got to play with, and I think his character got.
Yeah, he died at the event. What I love about, and I'm not spoiling anything, but I love that this always seems to happen. Diamond was involved in kind of a huge moving the story forward scene with talking to a certain spirit, and it was like, oh, this could be really interesting. He's really the heavy hitter in this. Dead. Right after dead. Completely dead.
I will say that if a lot of people in the Red Talons are looking at you for leadership, you have an expiration date appear on you. I don't know what it is, but it's like the moment it's like, we could all rally behind you. You could be a tribal counselor, or even just like give us support, lead us is enough to yeah. It was unfortunate, but we had some really good scenes. We had a lot of fun. We had a whole because I only get to see what I see, so we had Red Talons had fun because we all got together and talked about stuff and had a lot of art.
Yeah, the Red Talon Nook was populated pretty much the whole session. You guys were just jamming in there.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot to talk about. Yeah. We're a pretty proactive tribe. There's a lot of fun RP opportunities.
Well, I think that's true for all the tribes at this point, is that I think everybody would love to have some sit-down time with their peoples.
There's an ease of engagement that I haven't found. It's basically the opposite of Vampire. Like, in your tribe will like physically drag you in and be like, hey, this is what's going on. We could really use your vote, literally, because we vote on things. Your vote you matter in this world. We'd like to talk to you. We could always use more allies, and we're about to go into a huge fight. And it's just something I have not found in Vampire is like the opposite. Has been completely occluded to me because of lineages and things. I'm just kind of, when I do play in my local Vampire game, it's mostly Sabat. We don't have a Cam independent game, but even Cam independent, I sort of rolled to Giovanni. I was like, oh, there's a literal spreadsheet of lineages, and I'm like, this is so opaque. I just want people to be like, what are you? Yeah, cool, come to our room. Like, that is all I need as far as engagement goes.
Well, I do think Vampire is working for a lot of people. A lot of people are engaged with that lineage system. I think it is an interesting development. But I think one thing, and this is not something I thought of when we developed it, was, and you alluded to it, is the voting thing. Having
such investment. You matter.
It shocked me. It never occurred to me that would be a thing.
If you're a child of Gaia and you care about what the tribal council does, every child of Gaia you meet is a vote. Like, and it's all there's not that the numbers are low. It's like this is like school board elections.
Yeah.
Every vote matters.
Well, especially when we're talking about the Striders. Somebody just mentioned the Striders haven't had much activity on their boards, and that's true. They've been quiet, although they've had some good posts. But I feel like everybody in the nation who has a political viewpoint should be leaning on the Striders, their local Strider, being like, "Hey, boss, you really feel the way I feel about this thing, right?"
Yeah, right? You feel like you matter locally and that you matter nationally, just for existing, not for any particular other reason. You don't have to be like, nobody asks you the questions of like, are you really good at combat? Are you really good at politics? They just want to know who you are and what you care about, and that alone can make you engage with plot and players. And that's, to me, that's excellent, because that gets people role playing first, and then sort of system gaming later.
Mm-hmm. All in all, ECRE was definitely worth the trip. I thought Paul put together a cool game, and the players were absolutely bought in. It was kind of cool just watching the scenes when everyone was milling around the Cairn, and just everybody was in character. Like, nobody in that room wasn't in character, and that was lovely. It's just sometimes you feel like there's a swing point where if two people are out of character, like, the whole immersion just falls apart.
You're just a bunch of gamers hanging out.
Yeah. But I really never felt that way. I was trying to hide in the corner.
Not in the room.
Mm-hmm.
The only people who were out of character were out of the room, which I thought was something that wasn't enforced, but just happened organically.
It should just be good manners. That's a great thing. People get used to that.
But it wasn't something anybody got barked at. It's just everybody was pretty much icy as long as they were anywhere inside, like, these massive double ballroom. People gave a lot of respects to the props, and kudos to the people who set them up. I was next to like a river, and there were plants and flowers, and it was like, well, this is the Bond, that was the Cairn, and everybody was like, cool. Everybody treated with respect. Nobody even thought about going in without immediately contacting the warder or warder pro tem. It was all very it was all done very well. And when people just want to like shoot the shit about like other games or what else was going on in the con, they took it into the hallway, which is also where the coffee was, and like the pastry. So that may have had something to do with it. So there was a water cooler area for water cool, and there was a water cooler to do that. So I think maybe looking forward, embracing that and just giving a space where people can be out of character and get a cup of joe might help the division.
Yeah. The other big thing to talk about is Bhictoria MacDoughal died yesterday. The CEO of Pentex was assassinated in cowardly fashion by dozens and dozens of
I don't know what happened. I just really like Bhictoria. It feels bad, man. It feels bad.
The two things that I'm happiest about is she was killed legitimately.
Yeah.
Like, it was a legitimate kill. The players put months of work into it. They organized. They dropped in scads of influences, and then there was a real fight, and PCs died. Like, those. I mean, everything that I wanted that makes it mean something happened.
I mean, in many ways, Bhictoria was the bad version of Sabine.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and not just like
kind of a dark reflection of Sabine.
Yeah, and not just in like core design elements, but like in what she was doing and how she was organizing and what she managed to sort of craft for herself in her nation and like her organization. It goes to show that enough people can take on that kind of thing and succeed if they're organized, if they earn it.
Well, I think at this point, of course, you'll see that high members of the board of Pentex are probably going to be laying lower because they can no longer dismiss the Gaians as a threat. But on the other side of that, it means they're going to be keeping a lower profile. So,
yeah, well, I mean,
you've showed them that they can bleed.
I will say for many of them who were already sort of, the difficulty for fighting them was target acquisition, which is like, how do you get somebody who doesn't care about you and doesn't even do combat to travel to your city so you can murder them is a difficult prospect for many of these COOs or the CEOs of the subsidiaries or the other people sort of in the command chain.
Right.
But now it's going to be even harder to be like, hey, do you want to come to any town USA? And be like, no, don't. Why would I want to do that? That worked out terribly. That's an awful idea. No, I'm good here.
Yeah. So aside from the small interlude we dropped on the list, we also immediately went out to the VSTs with a brief update on what Pentex is up to and their reaction to this. So hopefully you'll start seeing things in your local game basically in real time. It's kind of one of my favorite things about our relationship with the VSTs this Chronicle is we can have pretty much they're on board for like immediate reactions to things. Like with Turtle. Within 36 hours, local games were running with the fallout of Turtle falling. Something happened in a random proxy. Like, that's just awesome.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see something similar to that with Bhictoria.
Yeah.
I think a lot of your local Pentex subsidiaries are going to be a bit shaken by this. And whether this makes them lash out or it makes them pull back really depends on the nature of your local subsidiary.
Well, and it also it deepens their whole subplot and what's going on under the hood. Like,
Smear shapeshifters, people. Sorry.
Also, a speakerphone. Come on, guys. They don't actually need a giant. They just turn speakerphone on. They can be whatever size they want.
Oh, shit.
I'm just saying.
Do you think he's got Bluetooth?
Hang on. As a Shadowrun player with like great dragons running things, yeah, they could shape change and use a modern cell phone or speakerphone. It's not new tech. It's just saying.
But that will be what we alluded to in that interlude is now the big conflict is without this isn't really giving anything away. This has all been stuff that's been posted on the back channel or in public lists. Bhictoria was the face of Pentex that wanted to basically control the world. They want to own everything, rule everything, which basically led to the break with the Dark Brigade pre-Chronicle because the Dark Brigade just wants to end everything. With Bhictoria dead, the check on the Dark Brigade is removed.
Right. I feel like people thought that infighting in Pentex would be in any way a good thing for the PCs, but that's not necessarily.
I think if the players are extremely proactive, in keeping the fight going,
they might be able to take advantage.
I think they could definitely take advantage of it. Yeah. But if the players sit back and let Pentex settle up,
then it will fall into one ideological camp or the other.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they have a choice.
Yeah. And one ideological faction has the Shmi. So,
yes, which makes everything awkward. It was essentially Pentex was avoiding that sort of like, yeah, we want to end things too. We will totally get to that at some point. But for now,
I love my hot tub. I love having a hot tub.
I love having a hot tub. I love sushi. I love eating sushi off of naked people, non-people, things with tentacles, whatever. I'm open-minded. I'm just enjoying this. You know, being kings of the burning castle. But we'll totally get to ending the world. Yeah, super duper. And now it's like the number one force pushing pushing back the end of the world. Ironically, is now toppled.
I spent like the last 36 hours considering what Pentex CEO the Digger would be like, and I really am still having trouble working out. That's gonna require some time.
If something like the Digger
ends up running Pentex,
if she or it's better than.
Well, it's like the Megacorp has gone from Luther running it to some absurd.
Oh no! There's a one-off. You can go. It's from Luther running it to Brainiac running it.
Okay.
It's like, you remember how Luther had all of these plans that didn't involve just coring the Earth like an apple and then collapsing it? We are not discussing non-coring the Earth like an apple plans anymore. Those are our number one.
This is our new mission statement.
This is our new mission statement. We will be brooking no argument. That's why you don't want Brainiac. Brainiac just is like, we can do this. And you don't want to give something like that the resources to actually accomplish that kind of goal. Because you don't want, like, Europe to go dark because it just fell. Like, that would be weird. But who knows?
And you don't mean fell to the worm, you mean 37 feet down.
No, I mean fell. Like, just goes dark one day. You know, the flood myth is often linked to the fall of one continental subterranean or sub-oceanic mountain range, which caused some sort of catastrophic flood, which imprinted itself in, the human memory for all of civilization. It'd be a shame if something like that happened again, CEO Digger. Just wash it away.
So basically, our response to this as staff is, one, we commend the players. This is what's supposed to happen in Apocalypse. You did it well. It was executed fairly, nobly, and at cost. So that is awesome. The second part of it as staff is we're just amused by the direction this could go from here, because we have really been holding back on the cartoonish supervillainy. There haven't been major first-run motion pictures that turn everyone who watches them into Fomori, or
well, no should there be, but there has been. What was set up was an ecosystem, right? Like one of those bottle gardens that can keep going for years and years, and that's what they intended. And then the players came in, and were like, just squish something. And now it's up to sort of time and the law of unforeseeable consequences to see, I think, what happens from there.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic when you're a player because, I mean, as creative as all of the STs are, they're going to look at what their players are doing, and that will inspire them to ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's fantastic, and God knows what's going to happen at this point. It's madness.
And local STs. The one thing I've really been happy with is local STs taking the general Pentex stuff and kind of innovating it. John Scott's work in Indiana in particular comes to mind, where he just created a great plot and it branched out to other games in the region, and then it went national, all because he created an awesome plot and he put the work in, and it's awesome. Like, the Making Bacon plot kit is not a national plot kit. It's a nationally supported plot kit. And it's gone huge, and I love it. I want to see more local plot kits blow up like that. And also, if you're looking to, I don't mean to sound ridiculous, but if you're looking to move up in the org, there's really no better way to make your bones, so to speak, than than working your ass off on a plot kit and selling it and getting people to buy into it. And that's an environment we want to cultivate, where people who want to do well are allowed to do well, both as players and storytellers.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I do. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. No, it's good. Well said, President Werewolf. Well said. What's going on with the peanut gallery?
They're just kibitzing right now. The other big thing I wanted to talk about, just because it's on my mind, is MESCON. And that's mostly because I've basically been locked in my house since Friday night writing stuff for MESCON. Steve Nowicki's done some stuff too. I think Josh Teitelbaum wrote some stuff too, but mostly it's just finally putting the plot together. The event is taking shape, and we are still mercilessly cutting, trying to get to the purest event possible. And the cutting process, while painful, you got to kill your babies, is it's so important. Like, you have to be willing to cut, and I don't think it's going to make the event lesser for the players at all. I think it's going to make it better for the players the more we can cut.
Yes. Well, and especially the things that end up being extraneous, right? They might be interesting to the person who wrote it. It might be even interesting to the people who ran it. But if there's no engagement for it, and it's completely occluded from the players, then you probably don't need to care about it for the purpose of an event.
Right.
You just write it and then move past it.
Yeah. So in many ways, the plot is gotten very simple. Where basically there's the wedding, one thing happens, and then other things happen. To put it very briefly, so
that's not brief. That is the most minimal you can describe any event. Something happens and something else happens,
and that's pretty much
that's how reality works.
Well, I mean, originally we had forking paths and things coming back, and we were working in some major NPCs that people might want to see and things like that, and there just wasn't room for it. It's not a spoiler, but one thing we were going to work into was the resolution of the Valka storyline, and there just wasn't room for that at MESCON, so that was a painful cut. But the Valka storyline will be resolved somewhat soon. I know Get Offenders players are kind of wondering what the hell happened to their tribal counselor, and she has been off stage longer than we planned. And it's just going to be just a little bit longer until we get some resolution on that. Whether she's dead or alive isn't really the point. The point is resolving that storyline.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
Well, the other thing is if you have too much going on, because you never really know what's going to happen once players hit a plot anyway. You just have to have a sort of general idea of resolution.
Well, that's the whole idea. Is we never. Me and Bucky have written probably 50 one-shots, at least.
Yeah, at least minimum.
One thing we've never done is written every story has a beginning, middle, and end. First act, second act, third act. We have never written a third act. I don't think once.
Well, okay, we write the first half of the third act in the sense of we know what's going to happen during the third act,
right?
But not what the third. We've never written a conclusion.
Yeah.
Right, and then it ends. I mean, I think we probably did, but that was the late '90s, just to put it in perspective. So
well, I think we learned fast that in the LARP environment, you can't have planned ending.
You can't have a this happens credit roll. Like, that's...
Even you, because you won't even get to choose your ending. At some point, you're just going to run out of time. So even if you have an ending that you think ties everything up and is incredibly elegant, you might not be able to get to it.
Or 2, or 8. I mean, the thing about multiple endings is, you know, I love, there's a game called Tactics Ogre. It's a series of a whole bunch of ogre games. They're tactical, they're fun. A lot of them have like 8 or 16 endings. And that's fine when you can play through them over and over and over again.
Horns. Look at this.
Yeah, I have this weird shadow on my head.
Look at that.
That looks like...
Look at that. I have like a V on my head.
Like a
there.
DC-style cowlick.
Yeah.
Like you're like, talking about your fucking purple shirt. Like,
well, I look like I'm turning into a demon over here.
We're weirdly lit.
We are weirdly lit. We're trying some different things with lighting. I think it might have been too indirect.
There's a giant light directly above us.
I think that's doing a lot.
We couldn't be more directly lit. It is a fantastically 2-foot wide light.
Yeah, but there's a glass
right
in between.
there.
So it makes it indirect. Look, again, we don't have an AV nerd. We are painfully lacking an AV nerd.
I feel like I don't know how any of that stuff works. So we look weird and our colors are off and we're weirdly lit and we look like we have bizarre cowlicks.
But yeah, that's basically where we are. Questions. We've covered a lot of ground in 30 minutes. So if you've got some questions, we would love to try to answer them.
I feel like we just sort of spitfired what happened at events, what we felt about them, general stuff about upcoming stuff. We can open it up to the more meandering Q&A where we play with each other.
Just kind of enjoy each other's company.
Just us and you.
Yeah, it's good.
Out there in the ether. Just enjoying one
I had one more
really.
thing while we're waiting on questions, and that is the counselor votes. We announced 2.5 weeks ago that counselor votes were coming in a couple days. Well, players heard about this, and then players started doing player things. So the counselor votes are on hold at the moment, pending resolution of some IC events. Right now there are 3 votes. It might be that we go to 2 or 4 based on how things resolve. And I feel silly about it because I remember a couple weeks ago I'm like pounding on the team. I'm like, you guys, you got to have those counselor opinions ready. We've got to be ready to go right on time. Give me the materials. Let's go. Let's go. And God bless them. Kelly and Tristan got out the materials I needed right on time.
Yep.
And then we got there and it was like, we can't launch yet. We can't do it. We got to hold. So now they hurried for nothing, and I feel like a heel, but we have to. But I think it's better to hold fire on that. So counselor votes are coming. The counselors are desperate to hear your opinions. Hopefully we will get to that very soon, player willing. Thoughts on Howler? That was the new
the
grinder
Tinder
knockoff
for werewolves grinder.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, yeah, go nuts.
There's this came up and comes up sort of evergreen as a Red Talon thing because it's the tribe of all lupus of like, hey, do you have a mate? And like, do you making progeny? And it's just like, yep. I now would like to not really talk about it and not role play it at all. Thank you. That is a whole part of the game that I'm just gonna be like, I turn into a wolf, I go off into the forest, music swells, there's a long shot of the moon, and then there are more werewolves. That's it. That is my comfort level for engagement. As I realize for Hamids and for Metis, it's different, but hopefully not that different. Swelling music, shift the camera away.
One thing I'll say about it is, as storytellers, it's your job to set the table, and give the players things, and then the players will go after what they're interested in, and that's fine. In this case, players are interested in this. I would love to see 5 other player-driven things that were more in genre to sort of balance this out. I think a 5-to-1 ratio would be great. But this in itself, there's no fault in this.
Yeah,
it's just I wish there was more player drive to do other things.
I'm not mad about it, no. And I'm bottled away from it. I just, playing a Red Talon is, I don't care. like I see, I'm like, that's neat. It's not like something I'm interested in for various and sundry reasons, but I mean, I dig it. People want to Yenta online and hook up and make more werewolves. Cool. It's part of the game. Yeah. Used to get renowned for it.
I'm glad you don't anymore.
It was getting really weird when it was like, why aren't you out there mating? Because that's how you get renowned.
That sentence drove away so many players. So many of our players have openly told me that they came back because that bullshit is gone.
Well, it's also weird being
that's a
like
hard line,
having a
yeah.
room that's mostly dudes, and then just looking at the like female players that you happen to get and being like, yeah, you need to be breeding more.
Oh, Jesus
And it's
Christ.
like, okay,
I think I just threw up my mouth a little bit, but yeah, because it always it happened. Like, we get reports from all across the country of that crap.
It's baked in weirdness, and I'm glad it's gone.
Yeah,
like aphrodisia, baked in weirdness. Glad it's I don't know if it's definitely
no
gone.
I'm
but
assuming.
I would imagine.
I think it's a safe bet.
I will rant on air forever until it is removed.
I think we'll know more once the Seder write-up is out. I have no idea though.
I mean, I guess that would make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what they're gonna look like. But that's neither here nor there. That's a completely different game.
Yeah.
So TLDR, it's fine. I'm not disappointed in the person who did it. I think it's awesome. I'm disappointed in the other 999 people who haven't done player-driven things that are more in genre.
It just there's a lot of issues that I don't think are being addressed.
There's still a bit of why aren't you breeding? Yeah, and I will hit it with a hammer every time I see it.
That's not how you get renowned now. It's not on the list.
More importantly, it's just something that needs to be crushed every time it comes up, because it drives away players. And the thing that is most important to us, and I think this needs to be most important to you, especially the long-time players, is the thing that matters most is drawing new players.
Mm-hmm.
The hobby is aging badly, and we need an influx of 20-somethings.
Yeah, and not to alienate them immediately.
Yeah.
With weird, creepy questions like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like Micah, again.
Or what's perceived by someone who doesn't know werewolf is a creepy question.
No,
yeah.
But I've also, in the conversation about it with other Red Talons, I've said, like, yeah, I'm on that. Mm-hmm. That's it. And we can just hand wave it. Mm-hmm. It's not something... I don't need... We can get into it. I've got dots of kinfolk on my sheet, or I don't. But either way, it doesn't particularly matter. You can be off doing things off camera, where you're not adventuring and going to cons, without having to particularly address
Well, that's the point, though. It's a lot easier for a male player to say, yeah, I'm working on it, than it is for a female player.
Yeah, no, that is
a problem.
Right.
Which is why, again, it's been openly stated many times the world will be dead in 3 years or so. Priorities, people. Making babies is not the priority right now. Saving the world is.
Yeah. I think...
Yeah, and I know this is a thing that kinfolk get. I know. Believe me, I know. The kinfolk mafia has made me aware, and I love you guys for it, and it's one of the reasons I'm fighting the fight.
I feel like it's a holdover from Revised.
Oh, it absolutely.
Yeah.
And even more than Revised from Second Ed. In Revised, it was toned down, and then in BNS, it's gone.
Yeah.
Well,
okay, fair.
99% gone. I'm sure there's a passage. I think there was like a passage somewhere, but yeah. At any rate, other questions?
Yeah. Let's see if I can read if I squint. Okay, so dead air. Dead air.
Dead air. Fill the air.
Talk about cookie clicker. Okay.
Kinfolk. Okay.
What thoughts or questions do I have?
So I was way too tired after ECRE. I couldn't drag myself out to the local game. Was the reboot of the local game was the day after ECRE. You didn't make it.
I felt terrible. No, I couldn't make it. And it was our Sabat session too.
Yeah. No, and I love my Sabat game too. I dragged myself out of bed and I just I can't, and then I went back to bed.
Yeah. I hope it went well.
As a newer player, how do you find out who your tribe's counselor is, especially since your tribal list is really quiet? Well, the easiest way you can do that is if you go to... Pull up the website here. If you go to the Werewolf the Apocalypse page on mindseyeSociety.org, it's the same page you went to when you first signed up for MES. If you go there and you go to Tribal Settings Guide, you will find breakdowns of every tribal NPC, as well as every NPC that National is running.
Yeah, that's camp leaders and your counselor and just people of note. Yeah. I think also
every NPC who National is portraying actively is listed on the settings pack. Not the settings pack, the settings guide. So if you look there, you'll find it. And if you ever want to talk to your tribal counselor, just start a conversation. You do need the VIP for a private conversation. You have to pay VIP points. But to have a public conversation of like, hey, Benny, what's up? You can just do that. Just post on your tribal list. And the storytellers are always watching, and we will try to respond. I know that I personally, I'm all over the Fianna list. And I know other storytellers are all over their lists. So if you're feeling like your list is dead and you want to get more involved, try just posting. Ask your tribal counselor a question. They'll probably respond.
Yep.
What kind of player-driven things are you looking for? As a fair, I don't know where to push, and as an older returning player, not sure what to do locally. You want to field that, Bucky? What are good player-driven things?
Oh, gee. I mean...
It's so broad. I know. I have trouble answering that because it's a broad question.
Killing Bicky was player-driven.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was pretty much... various gauntlets were thrown of, like, if the nation... All of this talk about, like, Concordat or Sanctum or tribal counselors, it was all, like, if we can't organize and kill one person, then the rest of this is moot. Mm-hmm. So I think it sort of just kind of crawled into everybody's consciousness. We have to be able to do one thing.
Mm-hmm. And in California, the players talk to their storytellers. Their storytellers talk to us, and we set it up. That was completely player driven. That didn't come. The whole killing Bhictoria MacDoughal thing was completely player driven.
Yeah.
So that's one example, and that's trying to take out a big bad. Another example is like what the Glasswalkers are doing. The Glasswalkers maintain a private database of everything, basically, of everything that goes over the list that they see, and they maintain that, and it's a really cool resource for the Glasswalkers. So that's another thing you could do, is try to organize and try to keep your tribe on point with information. But the other thing is just get people talking and.
I'm trying to think
whenever national storytellers are posting on lists, which we try to do as often as we can, usually there's some nugget of where a story could go that a player could latch onto. And so just keeping an eye out for those and grabbing on with your teeth. A lot of times newer players, or even older players, like long-time players, feel reluctant to just grab something and run with it. I would say don't feel reluctant.
Well,
the most you'll get is the staff saying we can't do that right now.
Yeah,
and that's it. That's
good stuff is always finding out about something, taking down a big bad, proactively doing something. Mm-hmm. I think that my only advice against sort of the plots that you try to push to be player driven is don't do anything that isn't feasible at the local level at all. Like I want to cure bitten. Or something, like, I don't know. Like, let's say that's just a thing.
But on the other hand, a group of players in Boston were trying to cure the bitten, and instead they found the talent of the good death, which was a really cool plot development. So even though they were going for something that wasn't possible, they also found something. They were able to develop something.
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah.
But, see, to me, that would be the kind of thing where I'm glad it led to someplace else, because at its core, but that also required engagement further up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anything you really want to engage in, I would say make sure that you can do at least some of it at sessions, so you're not bored. Right? Like,
yeah.
It's cool to want to latch on to national things and to the global nation politics, but you're also going to go to session and you're going to want something to do and things that drive.
And session is the core of our narrative. That is, I say it every show. Local is national. National is local. Your local game should be where the story develops. What happens during the downtime should just be gloss on that. It should be just writing in the margins. But the real story should always be at your local game.
Yeah, which is to me as somebody who also plays is a welcome departure from local sessions that felt like they didn't do much, and then massive proxies that felt like that were mandatory if you wanted.
Well, that was the destabilizing element. Yeah, that was one thing we tried to correct a lot. Yeah,
I'm glad to be basically past that, because it looks better on this side. It feels good, man. Yeah, it feels good.
Well, I think we're getting to the point where we're more willing to run proxies again because I think we've more established the equilibrium.
I think you've also found what a proxy is or means has fundamentally changed a lot.
And a lot of that's because the quest system helps with that a lot too. Aside from organizational stuff we've changed at National, it's just the quest system limits the number of players who can be involved, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be inclusive, obviously, but when people who are involved in 100-player proxies, I don't think many people walked away from 100-player proxies feeling really good about it.
Setting up a tribal moot. Those are great as anybody who's participated in one.
Yeah, we've run 6 or 7 so far.
I've always enjoyed those.
Mm-hmm.
Those are essentially player driven. You just have to get a bunch of players to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then a national NPC will sit in the corner and answer questions if asked. But basically, players run the show.
That is an almost entirely player-driven thing that I've always seen be awesome because it's basically just a way for you to RP with people that you normally don't get to see day to day, month to month, even con to con, from all over the country and now the world.
Well, I think tribal moots in a little bit. I mean, as a pale imitation, fill in some of the missing gap from having, a dedicated day during a con to just have tribal meetings and stuff like that. Since we don't have that, it doesn't look like we're going to get that this year, which is fine. The moots are a way to still get that element of RP in. And I think I would separate moots from proxies. Like, I think moots, there's some really great RP in them, and usually proxies are more just, I want to get something done during the downtime. Although it can spiral
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But moots are great for RP. Just great for RP.
Keep swinging at discount Steve Jobs. That's no way to talk about our Foxod.
JC.
AC.
JC.
The J doesn't stand for anything. Motherfucker. Wildenberg,
yeah.
I fucking named him. I can't remember his fucking name.
Son of a bitch.
That crazy half Dutch bastard.
We should have an auction item to name the new 7th member of the board of directors. I think that might be cool. I don't know.
Or help design them. That would be kind of neat.
That'd be nifty.
I could use a hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Would you guys think that's really cool, or do we just think that's really cool because we're weirdos? And you're like,
weirdos.
It's like
I get to design a character. Oh, it makes me so happy. This is my sickness.
I get to pay you to make an NPC no one will appreciate. See, for us, I'm like hard. For other people, I feel like they may feel cheated. I don't know. Like,
do I get anything from this? Satisfaction.
Yeah, I don't know, but to me that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I love to. I just want to be in the room
where it happens.
Yeah.
ARST Connor is running a great heroic quest proxy. Connor, you do good work. I don't know if you're out there in TV land, but keep doing what you're doing, Connor. I think we probably need to talk soon. By the way, we should probably have a mano at some point.
Downtown loan exchange. What's cool?
I think it would be neat. See.
Kidnap BSD, throw them in Erebus. Yeah.
I think a downtime loan exchange would be really cool. If I mean, it could be an administrative nightmare if done poorly, but if done well, it could be a really cool thing.
But I don't think there's a mechanism of doing it beyond your sept. Because that's like a...
Because the way downtimes work, yeah.
Well,
it'd be difficult.
This is the way den parents work. Because your den parent is sort of your linchpin. And it's your exchange, right? But your exchange,
your den parent. This is great. The den parent is basically a commodities exchange.
Your den parent could, if you want, could be this. That it could be a nurturing, maternal or paternal character, which really wants to get the cubs educated, or it could be a screaming game of pet. that basically the entire sept is reliant on to get anything done. If you've never played Pit, I feel bad.
It's got nothing to do with Black Spell Dancers, everything to do with commodities.
It has everything. It's a great game. Look up the game Pit by Parker Brothers or
I don't know. It's got a bell.
It's a card game with a bell.
It's got a bell at cons at 4 a.m. That fucking bell.
Oh, there's nothing like an overnight game of Pit to just make everyone around you play
want
Pit
to kill you.
or kill you or want to kill you.
Can we Kickstarter some shit and maybe fund something awesome for the venue? I don't know what that means, but I think it sounds awesome.
For the venue?
I don't know what that would mean.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I would say talk to that's your DC chain.
Right, I don't know. That is not my bailiwick. That is not something I can improve or shoot down. I think it's intriguing. I am intrigued.
I think if you ran up to your cord chain, who's ultimately responsible for securing you a location and doing all that real world money stuff, and was like, "Hey, I want to do a bake sale and I want to buy us like a projector," they'd probably be like, "High fucking five. Here's some, I don't know, prestige."
Well, even if it's a question of trying to just organize a national Garu campout or something like that, which is something we've thought about being able to do, but I just don't have time.
I'd say try something small and local. Test the waters with your cord chain, especially your local cords.
I think many of the regions run campouts too. I know Canada does. I don't know if Northeast is doing it this year, but Northeast does one almost every year.
They've been doing it for 3 years running.
Yeah,
so.
and I think East Central ran one last year. We were at that. That was awesome. If your region doesn't have a Garu campout, I strongly recommend it. It gives you a very pure experience that a con doesn't offer.
Weird bonus is if you have a camp out, you raise the likelihood of me and Brian showing up probably 300%.
Cheaper than a hotel room.
It is. It is.
Basically, if you're within
a lot of camping shit.
If you're within 1,000 miles of Buffalo and you have a camp, I'm going to a camp out in St. John for God's sakes. I'm not even sure where St. John is. It's like Nova Scotia land out there.
Where's Nova Scotia?
It's on the. It's what maritime provinces.
The East?
Labrador.
Oh, okay. I know where that is.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be going out there because me and Deb actually
hang out Labrador and the Newfies and all that.
Yeah, actually, I hadn't planned on attending. It wasn't like I planned, but I was actually already going to be on vacation while the campout was going on in Nova Scotia. So I'm like, I will absolutely come to your campout.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Very cool.
I want to support our Canadian players. I love them. Not that we've or Mass. It sounds like Texas needs a campout. I mean, yeah, Texas. Newfoundland has its own time zone, and God bless you.
Texas, you're always bragging about how big you are.
I know.
Have a camp out. Make it a cookout.
Yeah.
And that's how you do.
I thought the camp out was in New Brunswick. There's St. John and St. John's. New Brunswick, yeah. I mean, I'm an American. These you're asking me about geography of places that are not America. That is a fool's errand.
They're not even states.
They're provinces? I love Canadians. I don't understand your geography. I just know that you go north until there's a block of ice, and you go west and everyone's stoned, and everyone in the middle is stoned. Then you go east and everybody's stoned. I don't know much about your country.
It's also a lot of, I blame linguistics. It's the accent basically. It's just be slightly high. and add a lot of uptalk at the end of sentences.
Yes, I know. The joke here, for those of you playing along at home, is that Canada is actually south of my house. Okay. It's south of my work. I work 3 miles from here. Canada is south from my work.
Yes.
Canada's actually due west.
5 minutes from that door. 5 minutes from that door. With a good arm and a Nerf vortex, we could throw shit at Canada.
That is absolutely true. Yeah. We could fire Nerf guns at a foreign country.
Yeah, like one of the like little footballs with a tail that you can really get a good grip on. We can.
Digression. I've actually had a house in Canada since I was a kid. We got a little cottage. We used to go there, spend all summer there. It was lovely. I didn't even realize Canada was a foreign country until I was like 13.
I just thought Canada was a suburb.
I just thought you had talked to the weird guys who wanted tolls. I didn't realize that was a different country at first. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, I love me some Canada. I just don't understand your geography.
You go east until everybody's French, but then some sort of waveform collapses and everybody becomes British and Irish again.
Yes. Eventually, they stop being Quebecois. Believe me, I know the Quebecois. I deal with them at work.
It stops being Quebecois, and then you go full Republic of Doyle. I don't know if anybody else other than me and like my mother-in-law watches that show, but I'm a big fan. I love the series finale.
Don't mess with the Mounties. They do not joke around. Those guys are tense.
Oh, I mean, I feel like most Americans don't really have an appreciation for what Mounties even. We only know them as like
that guy in Due South,
right? Or Dudley Do-Right, the cartoon.
Yeah.
And they're the jackbooted law enforcement fascists of Canada. Having been to things that got tear gassed by the RCMP and watched people get hit with batons.
You went to college in Canada briefly, didn't you?
I did. I went to McGill for a hot minute, the Harvard of Canada, because I'm a smarty.
Good old McGill.
And then I misbehaved, so I went to state school. But then I clawed my way back up and went to a fantastically prestigious top 15 law school. But that said, yeah, the RCMP, they are... If you're going to get a boot in your face, it's going to be from the RCMP.
A boot.
take that how you will.
We are filling the air, desperately waiting for your questions. Otherwise, we will just keep talking about Mounties. Welcome to Talking About Mounties, America's first Twitch podcast talking about Mounties.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I have the same feeling about them that I do all law enforcement, which there's a lot of good law enforcement officers out there, and I wish them the best. I went to school with many of them. I have a master's in criminal justice in addition to being, a criminal lawyer.
Are you reading your CV now? Is that
No. I'm just saying. I know a lot of cops. I went to school with a lot of cops. I've gotten to see them, rise to the tops of their trades, be chiefs of local police here. There's still a lot of bad cops.
I should probably plug my laptop in.
The whole stream might go down any second.
We're at 15% power. I didn't even realize it.
Okay, it probably won't go down any second.
Fill the air, Bucky.
15%, but I thought I was.
You're doing a good job.
Yes. But in any event, being against bad policing is like being against child abuse. Doesn't make you anti-parent if you're against child abuse. And being against police problems and corruption doesn't make you anti-police. It makes you anti-police problems and corruption. Got weirdly political. Talking about Canada. 13. No! We gotta count down. It's hard for me to... Brian is a poor glass walker. That's true. You gotta watch your battery. How should a new player get into national plot stuff? Honestly, I don't know how a new player would necessarily avoid getting involved in national plot stuff. I mean,
every local games almost certainly are running something relating to national plot.
Your tribe always has a counselor. You are a member of a voting population, which probably has a total number of like maybe 50. Mm-hmm. So your vote is, regardless of what tribe you're in, your vote is more than 1% of all of the votes. I think I can say no tribe has more than 100 members. Yeah. So no matter what tribe you're in, you represent a percentage of a vote. Of the voting.
But more importantly, if you want to ever talk to your tribal counselor, one of those big poobahs, you can find him in the book. All you have to do is post on your list. Just post in your tribal list and try to get in touch with the tribal counselor. They're right there. And other players might want to talk to you too.
If you want to know what's going on, and sometimes information acquisition can be a problem, actually listen to the Koraks. I know that sounds cheeky, but the Koraks are out there often grabbing people by their lapels and shaking them, yelling prophecies and things. And people are like, oh, I'll tell everybody. And then they don't tell anyone. Mm-hmm. Just listen. Just ask a Korax and be like, just tell me anything. I need something to engage with. And the Korax will probably have a list of things. And they might kiss you, though. So, like, be ready for that pouncing that they do.
It's actually not mostly on the lists. The lists are a value-add tool. If you want to get involved with national plot and things that are going on nationally, the way our Chronicle is structured is that all local games have access to National Story. National Story is basically injected into local games, and as part of the
in the form of plot kits.
In the form of plot kits, and local actions in local games immediately matter because of the Doomsday Clock. So even if you're a player who never touches the list, you can definitely have an effect on the larger story just by signing into your local game. That's something we actually fight really hard for, is the centrality of the local game. The local game has to shine. The local game has to be important. The local game has to reflect the national story. Yeah. And storytellers overall have bought into that.
If you don't have a Korax at your local game, what would be the next best thing?
Just ask in a mood. Like, what's up, everybody? What the hell is going on?
Sure. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. You use the moods and the structures of the sept to your advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. I'm gonna go answer some. We've got some questions here, so I'm gonna go through them. Can you explain the Doomsday Clock to me? I know I should know, but I'm asking anyways.
I mean, why would you field that one first? Kind of, he can.
No, I can absolutely do it. Let's explain the Doomsday Clock. If you're not familiar with the real life Doomsday Clock run by the Union of Concerned Scientists, it's basically something they started doing back in the 50s that says the world is such and such many minutes away from nuclear midnight. It was basically a way of expressing how close the world was to falling completely to pieces. And so it starts at like 11:30 and it moves forward. It's like at 11:55 right now. It's not great.
Well, I'll give you an example. The real nuclear clock, I think the last time it ticked forward was because Trump tweeted some stuff. There was news in Iran and North Korea about enriching uranium, and then recently Russian diplomats from across the Western world just got removed and sent back to Moscow. Tick. That all brings you closer to the possibility, because nobody's talking, that a nuke could fly, and then let's drop the big one and see what happens.
So that's the real life version.
Conceptually.
Yeah, conceptually that's the real life version. In game, the idea is that all Gaians have an innate sense of how close Gaia is to dying, and the idea is that midnight, the clock striking midnight, would be the death of Gaia and the loss of the war. So it's a sense of how close you are to the end. So right now it's 11:55. It's pretty damn close, and the clock swings around back and forth based on actions in local games. Basically, after you have a local game, your storyteller submits a nice, just a handy little quiz asking what's happening at their game. We kind of take a snapshot, and then we take that from every game that submits, and then we compute that. Hey, we killed a BSD. Shit, these BSDs raised a pit. Things like that, back and forth. Was the veil maintained? Is the litany enforced?
Did a PC fall to the worm?
Did a PC fall to the worm? All of these things have effects pushing the clock forward or pulling it back. And so we add that all up to get a sense of what's been going on in the Chronicle, and we publish it every month, and we show either the players are doing well and the world is moving away from midnight, and as the world moves away from midnight, there are game effects. For instance, when the clock hits 11:55, all Pentex NPCs become more powerful to show that Pentex is coming closer to global hegemony. If the clock moves back far enough, you'll see things like seed cairns growing faster, the bitten being healed, things like that. These are all effects that are on various stages of the clock. So it's a great way of showing where the national narrative is right now without overburdening things with a complex plot. You can just look at that and know immediately how everything's going. So that's basically how that works.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, how does voting work?
Okay, so the last time the counselors voted, right? Generally, the counselors have a default opinion on something, right? So I think the only issue that was voted on with counselors was the inclusion of the FARA.
Well, the first thing to do, talk about councils voting, is in BNS Apocalypse, there's a section in the book, if you look about tribal counselors. There are things that tribal counselors can do only if X amount of them agree. Some things need half the tribal counselors to agree. Some things require 2/3 of the counselors to agree. Some things, like naming the High King, require all the counselors to agree.
Right.
So the conceit is, as opposed to the counselors just voting and being done with it, and with no player participation, just a bunch of NPCs yelling at each other. The way we're working in this is that the tribal counselors feel responsible to their tribes. So they will ask their tribe's opinion before they vote in one of these major issues. And so the idea is the players are presented with an issue that the tribal council is voting on.
Right.
They'll be given an opportunity to debate it among themselves for about a month. And after that time is up, you just submit your vote and tell your tribal councilor how you vote.
Right. The way this looks for a player is, as the gear up to voting goes, you should see some RP or be chatting about it in-game or out of game or on the list. But at the end of the day, the positions will come to you. It's usually, I think it was a Google form. And it was like, I'm voting. This is my MES number. This is my character who's voting. I think last time you could spend prestige, or you could spend renown, or be an elder to sort of get 2 votes instead of 1 vote. And that was it. So if you had say 30 cogs, right, representing all cogs, who were sort of network players, then you had 30 votes or up to 60 votes in one direction or another, and then the COG council member looks at all those players and is like, well, out of 30 possible votes, just to keep everything at 1, 16 say yay, 14 say nay. So I'm saying yay.
And this is all explained in a document that will be provided whenever a vote comes around. We have a nice document that explains all this clearly.
Considering that the numbers involved are pretty low,
and any player can ask any elder to put something up. As long as an elder who is a member of the nation goes to the tribal council has to decide whether they're going to vote on it. So all you need is an elder presenting it to the council, and the council will decide whether they vote on it or not. So it's a very simple process there as well.
Yeah, so it goes. That's a very brief. I guess the equivalent would be having it in committee. It was like, should we even vote on this? It's a quick yay or nay, and then the council. Every counselor is faced with, how do you actually feel about this? Then the players are polled. Basically, counselors don't. Well, on some issues they have opinions that reflect their politics.
Like, they're inclined to be neutral on this issue. They're inclined to support it or be opposed.
If they're like, say, they're like 95% against this by default, like their sanctum, this goes against everything the sanctum believes, you're probably going to need something like over 95% of your players being like, you're wrong, you need to change position. But for many things, I mean, depending on what they're propping to vote, you should expect a lot more towards 50 or maybe even, I guess, 75 at the outside. Of them not having super set like opinions, but effectively they don't vote until the players are polled.
Yeah. Where is the voting held at? The voting is on a Google form. The Google form will be posted to the out of character list in the Facebook group whenever it becomes available. And if you're not interested in Facebook or your lists, we do encourage VSTs to make this available at their games so players can vote. And hopefully we can hit as many players as possible. Last time we had something like 500 players vote.
I mean, linked around all the Facebook groups as well. Yeah. I mean, like, once something's on the site or the list and it's going on, then you might see it like in your local Facebook groups for, I don't know, your domain, your pack, your genre, venue, whatever.
Yeah.
They'll be like, hey, this is going on. If you want to engage with it, engage with it. And that's how. One of the benefits of APOC is that you matter immediately.
Well, it's just like even in your sheet. Even if you're a 0 XP sheet, you still have a rage track. You still turn into a giant murder machine.
Yeah.
Like just walking in the door. There's something very egalitarian about APOC that's built right into the game. Even though it does have this class structure that's very rigorously enforced. Out of character, your character is somebody the moment they walk in the door.
Yeah, absolutely. Super late. Don't worry about it. It'll go on YouTube.
Yeah, just
the first 5 minutes we didn't have our mic on, so I wouldn't sweat it.
Where should I go to annoy my tribe most effectively about Turtle? That very much depends on your tribe. There is going to be a turtle related element on the vote, so you'll see that as well. But yeah. One thing I like about the turtle plot is we did have like 7 heroic quests we split out, and all the storytellers who ran them did a great job. And we got a lot of players involved, and I think the funnest part was me shooting videos and like recording scenes for the endings. It was really fun. For me. I hope players enjoyed it too. Yeah.
Okay. Vote Wendigo. Hey, that's oh yeah, so that's gonna come to a vote. Is which of the 3 philosophy?
Options. Well, yeah, whether you support Cockroach's opinion, whether you support Wendigo's opinion, or whether you believe, guys, he kind of fell to the worm. There's nothing we can do about it. Let's focus on the war. I mean, those are the 3 options. So that should be really interesting. Or a train wreck. I'm hoping interesting.
I will say, of all of the possible explanations of the Ben, I like the one that you went with. The best.
Thank you.
It's going to seem a little inside baseball, but after the reveal, I was like, bravo, because the other 2 make way less sense. And the only other one that I like, I think people would have been real pissed about.
Well, there are still mysteries there.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like, the reveal they got.
Yeah.
Of saying what this is related to.
Well, a lot of people wanted me to hold back on that, but I felt like we were a year into the Chronicle. It didn't seem right to hold on to mysteries just to have mysteries. I think we need to start solving mysteries so there can be new mysteries. Like, BNS Apocalypse presents some great mysteries, but I think if we never pay off those mysteries and wait till the end of the Chronicle, I think that's disingenuous of a storyteller to do that.
I personally don't like. I think there's a lot of hype given to how players are going to feel the day after the Chronicle ends and everything is explained to them, and like how jubilant or appreciative they'll be of that. And some of that's true. I mean, I love finding out what was really going on behind the curtain and all that. But by the same token, actually being able to engage with those things is pretty fucking sexy. As opposed to having to wait and be told what they were later and never getting to engage with them.
Yeah, when the ending is given to you in a narrative, it's satisfying. It has to happen sometimes. But I think when it's done in the course of play, it's more natural and more satisfying.
I wouldn't even say it's satisfying versus dissatisfying. being able to engage with it is a plus. I'll just say that is, to me, that's just better. That doesn't mean you can do it with everything, but when you can do it, that's a value add.
Yeah. The Strider Curse is a good example. Strider players are always talking about breaking the curse. The Strider Curse is very important to keep in context. The Strider Curse has been in place for 4,000 years and was placed by Set. Striders have been trying very hard for 4,000 years to break that curse and have been failing.
When they were in a much better position to break it.
Yeah. So, while not saying no, Strider players should understand that the bar to try to break that curse is very, very high. It's not a question of a quest, because it breaks the narrative to say, well, the other guys for the last 4,000 years
just all their chops.
They just didn't feel like it.
Yeah.
So the Strider Curse is a very special example. The new Fianna Curse is similar, where you don't want to make it too easy. You can't make it too easy. If you make it too easy, nothing has value. Nothing means anything if it's too easy.
Well, it means that the book, it's sort of like the way that countries that are constantly changing or rewriting their constitution, they say that their constitution's written in pencil, as a very damning thing, like, because they have no legal stability in their core government.
Right.
Is if you take away the stability of the setting itself, where you're just like, well, we could just start changing anything, and it's extremely easy to do so, then that big thick book you have may as well be written in paper, and they're just handing players the erasers.
Yeah. I mean, I was on national staff for the Silicon Sentinel thing and things like that. I mean, I bear responsibility for that. But that's also stuff that, like, again, you can make those changes. But if they're not done extremely delicately and with a very high bar, it's dissatisfying and it causes problems. So yeah. Let's see. The Pentex narrative almost made me like Pentex / Worm. Almost. Well, Eldritch Wentworth, the NPC in that cutscene, is very much. Yes, he's a VTES card. Look him up. Is definitely of the opinion that he is the hero of his story. He believes that by helping run Pentex, he's helping direct Pentex in a direction that will not cause the world to end. Of course, Pentex does all these horrible, horrible things, and he is responsible for that. But in his mind, he's serving the greater good, because at the end, the world not ending justifies all the horrible things he has to do. So in his mind, he's a hero. He's objectively a monster. Like, absolutely a monster. No question about that.
Yeah. Well, look, everybody is the protagonist of their own journey. Even mouth-breathing Nightmaster thinks that it's a good idea to blot out the sun.
Well, a better example is Shazir. Shazir's opinion is he's a complete hero. In Shazir's mind, the world is a sickness. The world needs to stop. Look at the world. What the hell is wrong? Look at the world. I mean, he's not quite an Effendi, but he just wants it to stop.
Yeah, even the Effendi are the good guys. You read a long, lengthy article about this terrible situation where a person had some sort of massive health problem. They're completely brain dead. Now they just are in constant agony and have bed sores. And you hear about a lobby that says pulling the plug is wrong. All right? To the Nefandi, you're those protesters saying not to pull the plug. And you're like, this is thoughtless cruelty, because you only care about yourself and the fact that, like, you can go out to dinner and have supernatural powers. You don't care about the fact that most of the world is constantly suffering and on fire. It needs to end.
No, this does have a line. I mean,
doesn't mean everybody's a misunderstood savior.
No, most of your garden level Fomori with maggots coming out of his eyes, who's screaming because he can't sleep because the bugs in his head won't stop gnawing on his eardrums. Right. That guy is a tragic figure. But he doesn't he isn't able to justify what he does as some greater form of heroism. He is a victim.
Or your core knight sort of like Warhammer 40k guys who are just like, yeah, blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. I just love killing things. You're Crumbopulous Michaels.
Yeah.
I just really love killing. Killing's fun. But they're not probably misunderstood saviors. They still may be the protagonist of their story, but they're not the hero of their story, if you follow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's on the end of it. Somebody like the Digger is not the hero of any story. He is, because he's lost himself. I mean, once you've lost that sense of I, then you've kind of lost yourself, and he's completely lost himself in whatever it is he's trying to do.
Or it.
It. I use he as a neuter. I know I need to break it because the world has moved on from that, but I have trouble with it.
But yeah, the various titles that the Digger has is, I would say, a tragic villain. If anybody really sort of got to grips with understanding it, that would be super interesting for them. Wouldn't really change anything, but it might be super interesting for them. But there's a lot of tragedy there. Some people are hurt and just want to hurt back.
Well, I mean, that's your Ice Kings, the people who have forgotten who they were. They sacrificed so much for what they wanted, but now that they've made those sacrifices, all that's left of them is the results of those choices. There's no self left.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of different types of villains, but somebody like Jazz Wentworth is going to believe that they're in the right.
Yeah.
And your arch nefandi, the ones who think that they're the leaders and will rise. Because remember, cult leaders rise generally out of charisma and an ability to craft it into a narrative that's palatable. Whether or not they completely believe it, or late at night they realize that it's all bullshit, is their journey.
Yeah.
But they can often spin it in such a way that it makes sense and has an internal consistency.
Well, from my perspective, I don't think there's any Methuselah vampire out there who doesn't think they're the hero of the story. That pretty much goes with being a Methuselah. That is right on the tin.
Yeah, there's very few people who believe they're the villain. Sometimes they're the most dangerous people, though, because once you accept that you're the bad guy, you sort of have that moral liberation of like, well, there's no event, there's no moral.
But you're boring. That's the problem. Infernalists are the most boring of antagonists. There's nothing more boring than an Infernalist.
I don't think
terrible.
No, hang on. There's different types of self-aware villains. They're not all just, I'm just evil for the sake of being. They're not all just the Voltaire song, and just mustache twirling. Because Infernalists are all Snidely Whiplash. Pretty much all of them. Especially if you're on
Snidely Whiplash? I don't know who that is. From the mustache twirling villain, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The
they're
mustache
so boring.
twirling villain.
Now they're great. They're great fun. Like Nightmaster was fun. Nightmaster was a villain in the Last Chronicle who was cartoonishly super villainous.
Blot out the sun.
He just wants to destroy the sun. I mean, he was interesting because he was so stupid of a villain.
I did say even the mouth-breathing Nightmaster probably has some sort of logos as to why that's a good idea.
But I don't think he sits alone at night mulling over his pathos and his never-ending war on sunlight.
You know, the Nightmaster still has to, like, have dinner, like, relax for a little while, digest, take a shit, and ruminate on the throne. And then, you know, probably thinks occasionally. One hopes. I don't know what that looks like. But it's ugly, probably. It's just muttering, taking an angry poop. You know,
man, I hate that sun. He just wakes up in the morning and shakes his fist at the sun for 3 hours. That's how he starts every day.
You don't want to be one note.
These are the worst villains. These are the worst, least interesting villains.
Yeah, you can't... Being fully and completely evil is generally just less interesting. Well, I often find it weird. This is something we talked about when we had Ig on a podcast with the sort of the alpha slice, the eating babies issue of, like, you know, taking the wrong kind of prey restriction and having to wrestle with that. And it's like, if whether or not eating babies
is your moral
dilemma, your character is stupid. Is really stupid. That's not an impossible moral choice. Nobody's sweating or losing sleep. If you're like, eating babies is bad. Like,
no, in certain situations, eating babies is no one says that.
Yeah, it's just so dumb. You can't. It's two-dimensional, like cardboard cutout. Two-dimensional. You can't go that far.
But what's interesting about Apocalypse as a game is a game where at the highest level your antagonist is a mindless force of nature. There's no moral complexity to the worm.
No,
but that's at the highest level.
Force.
Right. It's like saying gravity has an opinion about you.
Well, the wild does it. That's the other thing is, I feel like people project a lot of thinky parts to the triadic forces that simply aren't there.
Well, we're guilty of some of that though as storytellers.
That's
we
fair.
we have some responsibility for that, but it shouldn't be.
Right.
Like, at the end of the day, the Wormweaver and Wild are not people. They don't have opinions. They're just forces of nature.
Certain situations,
and that is not a morally conflicted character. If you can write that sentence, you are not an interesting morally conflicted character. You're just a monster enjoy. If you enjoy playing a monster, that's great. Do it.
I mean,
but you're not interesting.
There's a role for you played somebody who was a monster for quite some time, but it was in Sabat.
I played a monster for 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. The question wasn't whether or not, but it wasn't about your moral conflict.
No, it was about everyone around me.
Yes.
It was about the moral quandary this character created in everyone around
them.
Right.
Is that how do I actually still run a pack and engender loyalty when I would probably eat them? if like how do you walk that? So that can be kind of interesting.
I think that was a challenge to me because I generally play characters that are so conflicted. Gregory, which was the Nosferatu, was just a complete fucking monster.
Yep.
It was a challenge to me because he was so boring, but trying to find something interesting there was really the challenge of the character.
Well, you got real political. And suddenly how you felt about eating other people didn't fucking matter anymore. Like, that all paled to insignificance when it came to sort of, like, engaging with, like, real vampire politics. It was like, oh, there's a lot bigger things going on. I think that was a good help.
Well, we're really getting off topic. We're talking about things from 10 years ago. Questions. Does anybody else have questions? If you don't have questions, in the next 30 seconds, we will wrap on you. Be quick. Be decisive. Give us questions.
All of us 3 Wendigo have to support each other.
There are more than 3 Wendigo. There's at least 4.
I was gonna make. I was honestly thinking about introducing.
You need to play that Wendigo. It's like the best. The thing about the Wendigo is it's crazy. We can talk about this. Is the Wendigo have some of the best, coolest builds in the game. Wendigo's gift tree and merit suite leads to a lot of cool characters.
I made a build that's sort of broken. It's a little bit of a one-trick pony.
Mm-hmm.
But
the fucking Terminator is a one-trick pony. It's fine. You're the fucking Terminator.
And it all involves a chop. It all involves a merit to get a power I don't think anybody has ever given a shit about.
Mm-hmm.
Is you take the merits that make you good at being a Wendigo, and you never have to chop to track or anything like that, and you take the Wendigo suite just to get Heart of Ice, and a bunch of other powers. But this character, I'm probably going to make them.
If you don't make this sheet, somebody needs to make this sheet.
Okay, so the idea is this. If a Wendigo has familiarity with you, they own you, essentially. They can kill it, they can do so much damage to you, they can find you wherever you are. But getting familiarity for a Wendigo usually means biting,
drinking, yeah,
or smelling their blood. They've got a bunch of powers to do that, which is cool, and there's ways of doing that. Cause, I mean, you can just trick shot somebody, that's fine. This is a different way. This is Tribal Affinity Black Fury to take Delirium of Volupta, which does a whole bunch of other things, but in addition to the whole bunch of other things it does, just has a very simple, short sentence in one paragraph that says you now have familiarity with your target. Which is... So I'm just going to make this tracker killing machine who just needs to win that one chop. And is like, oh, I own you now. I mean, some of their powers have like a 1/4 mile radius. Like, range. Heart of Ice doesn't need line of sight. They just start taking gobs of ag. Gobs and gobs of ag.
Let's see other questions. How is the new house? It's great. It's bigger. It's got a California room. Although we spent at least a week debating whether it was a California room or a Florida room. An internet search...
Or a solarium.
The internet tells us that those are all the same thing, so we were arguing about nothing. That's good. What is on my shirt? This is one of my NaNoWriMo shirts for the National Novel Writing Contest. It's one of the years I successfully completed NaNoWriMo. Yay, I did it 4 years in a row. It was exciting. And then I got this job, and I didn't have any time to write books anymore. Yay!
I didn't buy a shirt.
But you did finish, though. You finished the year.
I did.
The last year I did it. Okay, question. Can you use Troll Skin and Renewed Vigor on the same hit, assuming you get a kill? I'm going to assume not. Because generally you can't stack like that.
It depends on what's required of those powers. I would have to read them. If one took if they don't take actions.
I think they're I think they're not carriers. I think they're both triggered.
Like when hit.
Both Renewed Vigor and Troll Skin trigger when you...
No, Troll Skin renews when you hit somebody.
Yeah.
Renewed Vigor is when you're hit, I thought. Oh no, maybe it's when you hit somebody too.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't say it takes a simpler standard or whatever and there's no limit, then you could do both.
This is not an official rule. We are not rules team. We are not rules team.
You know what? See what you can get away with at your local game. ST discretion.
Or just ask Rules Team. The link for questions.
I mean, a
is
lot
right
of
on the
different
site.
powers require a hit. You can't do all of them when you hit, but things like that require just to spend if a condition is met.
Next question. What the hell is a California room? A California room is the same thing as a Florida room or a solarium. Look it up. Sadly, getting in a car to defeat scent gets. Not if you're a Wendigo. Specifically, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It even says normal ways of losing you don't
going
work.
into running water, getting into a car, it doesn't work. Yep. It's good to be a Wendigo.
I mean, if you have that merit that makes Wendigo Wendigo.
Yeah. Which, I mean...
If you're making this character, you have that merit.
I would like to take a poll of who didn't take their tribe's 1-point merit. I feel like almost everybody would take took their tribe's 1-point merit.
Oh, the tribal 1-point merits are so good. There might be some Pharaoh who didn't, depending on their cost. Is sometimes you just take their 3 or their 3 and their 2.
Right, because you just don't have room.
But almost always the 1 point is so good. Especially all the ones that essentially give you versatile in something for free.
Yeah.
Those are all pretty great.
Yep.
Wendigo with 2 of the 3 merits, like the...
the ancestor merit is great.
It's gravy.
Yeah, that's just money in the bank. There's nothing like being able to be like, yeah.
Do you know what I don't? You know what I don't like doing spending XP.
Yeah, I don't like needing to spend XP on dumb skills where STs can go gotcha. Instead, I took a merit where it's like, nah, fucker.
It's actually why I think Wendigo are one of the best tribes to build a higher ranked character off the bat with, because you have Ancestor 6. You don't give a flying fuck if your skills suck. You have Ancestor 6.
You've got super ancestor. Your ancestors are just better. I need to fly
Other
this
people's
helicopter.
ancestors are fine.
Yeah, it's just yours are better.
Yeah.
You have better ancestors. I need to fly this chopper. Cool. I can do it. I can make sure we don't crash. For this chop, anyway. And probably for enough chops to land the fucker. Like you...
As long as I take over flying within 30 seconds of hitting the ground, I can do this.
I think there could be an argument of... well, not who takes more ancestors, because you max both of them, whether you're a Wendigo or a Stargazer. But who has better ancestors? Because they each give you very different things.
Yeah.
They give a very different benefit to the Wendigo than they do to the
Stargazers. Okay.
Pure Lance Mags? Okay, yeah.
Good times.
I love that build. I love the idea of taking this completely obscure power. I don't think I've ever seen.
I just like walking after your prey, not running.
I'm just like, yeah, no, we're good. It's like, aren't we gonna chase them? Nah, we're fine.
Just start walking.
Yeah. It's like, are you worried about losing the trail? I don't even chop. Chopping's for suckers. I got this.
You're just into persistence hunting. You just never ever. You're not a vampire. You have to stop when the sun comes out.
Oh yeah, and think about using it on a vampire. It's like, cool. I will see you an hour after sunrise. I am not in a rush. I got all the familiarity I need, bro. I'll hard device you on the way out anyway. I mean, fuck it. Take a bunch of ag. Why not?
Enjoy that.
Yeah, that's for you.
Yeah. Oh, good. Apparently somebody does have a Wendigo tracker with that build. Awesome. Well, Bucky's been talking about it on the podcast for about a year, so I would hope somebody would have sold it by now.
With Tribal Affinity, Black Fury and Delirium of Volupta?
With that build.
Cool. I mean, I want to see it. But yeah, I thought it would be neat.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this Wendigo will find you. They will kill you, and there is no stopping them. Oh, IDK. Well, I mean,
there are Wendigo trackers, yes, but I think this is the best. It's the best I've seen. It's the best I've seen.
I'm gonna make it anyway, even if somebody else has thought of it. But I didn't think of every crazy build in this fucking system. The crazy cat lady build definitely struck me as
the cat lady is the cat lady Black Fury. Yeah,
the cat lady Black Fury is next level.
Why don't you remind the audience what the cat lady Black Fury is?
Oh, yeah.
It's the Tribal Affinity Bastet.
No, yes. You take Affinity to the Bastet, you take Center of Attention, and then you take Sect Defector with your Black Fury so that you can do that. And then you go, everybody look at me, and then you go Gorgon's Gaze.
It's so stupid.
It's basically like awe Gorgon's Gaze. And it's really the only way to do it. But,
I want your Black Fury build with the tech.
Somehow combine it with the
No, I think your secret tech. Yeah.
Oh.
Like
Yes.
your secret build.
Oh,
deck.
cat lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, still want to make the drone rigger Black Fury, but their drone can only go 5 steps away, so that's not really much of a drone. But they might work as a vehicle rigger, because that would be interesting to be in an armored
I
chest.
love a lot of your builds. I do not love this build because I
just
don't
love
think it works.
You can put yourself in an armored chest freezer in a van and control the van with magic, and then supportive indestructible onto the van with your weapon fetish, and then pilot it with Ghost in the Machine because you have tribal affinity Glasswalker, and then you could look at your ST pulling their hair out and being like, I hate you so much. And then you could laugh, and you could just keep laughing forever.
This is your Furiosa Black Fury build? I think that's what it should be called.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's your Furiosa build?
Absolutely. You just go...
Take one arm.
You go
the
full
whole...
until they patch this. I am riding this one to hell, and there's nothing you can do about
I think
it.
rules specifically told you this didn't work.
No. They just said it only worked within 5 steps.
Mm.
So I have to... No, the one thing rules told actually responded to me with like a really Well, I still disagree with
Yes,
it.
he's building a rigger. Yes.
Oh.
That is exactly what's happening.
Yeah, well, but unlike in Shadowrun, you could just supportive indestructible on your battle van, which is a huge value add because then your ST essentially is like, I don't like that, and you go, I don't care.
Jesus Christ.
You can just drive it off a cliff, and you'll just bounce. I don't even know. The whole all of reality breaks down at that point once you start using.
Your car is death-proof now.
Once your car is
Furiosa driving a death-proof car.
Yes, your grindhouse. It does. It's just it's brilliant, and
You're calling your own idea brilliant.
well, no, it wasn't entirely my idea. I did work with other people to get to this place, but yeah.
Velfer, middling to high. What is that? What's Bucky's ST turnover rates?
You know, now that I think about it, it's actually really high. No, but I haven't I haven't actually made any of these because my other character slot has been with a Anansi that I've played maybe twice since Chronicle launch because I just don't have time. I play my Red Talon all the time. So all of these crazy builds probably won't actually get anybody to question everything they know to be true and why they volunteer to run a game, and this is the thanks they get. But they might show up at a convention on a motorcycle and be like, "Now you're too exposed in a motorcycle. It has to be something you could be inside." The smart car from hell.
Oh my God! Is it a Mini Cooper?
It should
be the Black Fury in a Mini Cooper.
Yeah. I think that's fine.
I just like how we're lobbying so hard for nuance and interesting character, and you're like, Furiosa, baby.
Hang on. There are 2 sides to me. There's 2 sides to, or not 2. There's many different types of players. I just represent a person who simultaneously represents multiple types of players. As a Shadowrun player, there's certain Gonzo character builds where you want to run around with your gyroscopic mount, and on that mount you have an Ares Cascade, and that Ares Cascade shoots disappearing ink. And you want to be so good at spray weapons to just strike fear into the hearts of everybody, and then hit them with your DMSO cocktail, and they think they're dead. They're just like, I'm dead now. And then you're like, it's just disappearing ink. And then you leave, and you're like, why would you ever build that? You could have just killed everybody. And you're like, yeah, I could have, but I'm just stress testing the system.
Just because the vehicle is fine doesn't mean the occupant is. Good point, Mirror Tank.
Okay, you show me all those vehicle rules they wrote, and I'll show you all that damage I'm taking. Because there's a certain point where the ST could just be like, rocks fall, you die.
That's a God of the Gaps argument.
No, look. They clearly had an idea, and then they either run out of time or they didn't want to do it. And a sports car has the same number of item qualities as your tie. It can also be flashy, and
well, because it's a LARP, they didn't want to focus too much on that stuff.
Yeah, no, I get it. But this is the price you pay. Don't have the drive skill. Don't put the drive skill as a default skill on my character sheet and not make not let me break it.
I mean, I won't lie. My Accord character had, I think, 53 merits related to driving.
Yes.
I had 53 dots of merits.
Yeah.
NWAD is so weird.
That's the one thing I love about NWAD.
I had 53 driving-related merits.
Yep.
It was all I did, but by God.
Yep. It was like, why be a gun bunny?
It's a stock human driver.
Stock human driver. It was like, am I in a car? Cool, I win. Sweet.
Let's see, my pulse starts at like 45. What does yours start at? Yeah.
I get out of the way with my car. How? Because I'm pulling 45s. I don't need to explain it to you.
I don't understand how good my character is. They're better than me.
I already did my math.
Oh, shit.
You can do your math to catch up. Just show your work on the back of your sheet. You're fine. It looks like a chalkboard covered in equations. And then it just ends with, I win all the jobs.
Oh, God.
I love goofy ideas for character builds. They're fine. And games should be able to roll with that. Because, me could probably pick up my indestructible car and just throw it in a river. Indestructible doesn't mean that it can still drive. It's not an indestructible flying car. So there's ways of defeating it.
Zemi could probably swallow your car whole, which would raise a lot more uncomfortable questions.
Not for me. It would raise a lot of uncomfortable questions for the Zemi having to pass a Honda Civic. I don't know what shape you change into to make that easy.
Delirium enveloped Wendigo. Nice. 4 words to make that a great power for Wendigo. Good, fine. Exactly.
That's why I'm here, people. That is why I'm here.
That is not my forte. That is not what I am bringing to this podcast.
I love that shit. That became my new favorite gift. Because I was reading it just randomly. Because I think I was gonna make a Black Fury, or I was making a Black Fury for somebody. Oh, it was the contest winner.
Yeah,
that's when
we built their sheets. Yeah.
Yeah, when somebody won our calling contest, and I made them a Black Fury sniper. I was like, it does include the words "you get familiarity with your target." Those are powerful words. I want to use those for wrong.
Familiarity is so powerful, just as in general, yes.
This is a great episode of Bustin' You Got Here. You're welcome for the mirth. It's our unscripted stuff. This is where the fun comes
I think
in.
without Iggy, we just so naturally fall into this me being the straight man. It's just like, okay.
Which is bizarre. Because I am a curmudgeonly, disapproving, judgmental, does Bucky even see color type of person to most of the people I know. And to, like, the gamers I know, they're like, that guy's a goof. How did that happen? I don't know how that happened.
All right, open questions. Ask about anything. We've got, 20 minutes left? We've got 20 minutes left. Just hit us with anything. We will talk to you about anything. The world is your oyster.
There's a lot of awesome stuff coming up. Check out the website. See if you can come to any of these events or campouts. Also, use the website, use your chord change, use your ST chains, find out what games are near you.
Oh, speaking of which, on US Announced the other day, a post went out from the NCA folks that the MES hoodies for this year are out, and they look really good. Check it out if you get a chance. I might pick one up myself.
Isn't there also a vote going up now for NC?
I believe NC.
Or did that end?
I'm not sure.
Did I blink and miss it?
I honestly have so much when I played. I don't
No, I know you don't know, but I followed. I tried it.
When can we expect the next IC video from either of you?
Bucky hates joy? I think a lot of people think the answer to that question is yes. Is that I hate joy. Where I don't. I just am specific and picky about the things that I derive joy from.
Well, I will definitely be doing some IC videos pre-MESCON. At the very least, I would love to offload some of the crap you have to do at the beginning of a convention game with videos before the convention. Like describing your arrival to the wedding, how you got there, all that pre-game stuff. I'm really looking forward to offloading a lot of that onto a video that we release before the event. I think that will help us. It might buy us an extra 15 minutes of playtime. So I'm looking forward to doing that. That's going to be my big thing coming up. There will be an IC video to announce the vote. When the topics up for vote come up for vote, we will have an IC video announcing the votes. Then when the vote is resolved, we will have an IC video announcing the results of the votes. So
Yeah.
that's 3 videos in the next 2 months at the very least, if nothing else happens.
That's a fair number of IC stuff. I don't. That's mostly you.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to be. Well, I'll help if I'm asked.
Would you describe yourself as a moon-faced assassin of joy?
Am I moon-faced? I don't know.
I think he's referring to a certain Ambassador Veer from the television show Babylon 5. Who was referred to by Orlando Malari as a moon-faced assassin of joy. Yes, that's right. I got the reference.
Okay, fair enough. I remember Garibaldi. I watched a few seasons of that show.
Yeah.
I remember, what's his name? Chekhov being the spy
That show
officer.
did not age well. Like, it's amazing. I remember at the time, Babylon 5 was the better show than Deep Space Nine. But watching it now, I don't know how I ever fucking thought that. Like,
Well,
Deep Space Nine did not aged well.
I'm gonna
Babylon
drop
5 didn't.
I'm gonna drop a truth bomb. Farscape is and has always been the best show of all those genres. Yeah.
What?
It's the better episodic space adventure.
Oh, yeah. Anything new in place to try to keep the issues of the past about nearly OOC? The OOC bleed issue, which really comes to the fore when we're talking about things like kinfolk and Farrer rights, it concerns me. There's no nice way to put it. It concerns me the amount of bleed we see on this topic. I think because the last vote was like right after the election, I think people brought a lot of that over. Hopefully people have cooled down somewhat and there's more separation.
Felt betrayed by democracy twice.
Yeah.
I mean, to put it inartfully.
Yeah. I mean, that's not so, unfortunately, that kind of bleed isn't something I can control for as a storyteller. I mean, all I can do is be honest with the story and try not to make things too uncomfortable for people who don't want to go into certain topics. But at the end of the day, the integration of the Farah into the Garu Nation is integral to the storyline. It's part of the story. We're stuck with it.
To paraphrase myself, I said it much more rudely in another stream, but it's similar to asking what Major League Baseball can do to prevent bleed in the fans, right? Like,
Well, this is an important analogy I think people lose track of. Is that
okay? So
gamers are not that different from sports fans. We think of bleed as something very particular to us, but it's not.
but it's not. As long as there are bar fights for wearing the wrong jersey, bleed is actually a super common thing. Whether it's over pride in your sports team, or I guess in many ways even your own country, or it could express as nationalism. But bleed is something out there. So if you're all about, you know, your Yankees or your Red Sox and you meet the opposing person, asking what MLB can do to stop that bar fight from happening, to stop those feelings of antipathy happening between Red Sox and Yankees fans, other than like MLB being like, please don't assault fellow sports fans, which seems like a really low, like, they shouldn't be needing to do that. But there's nothing in the rules of baseball, like if having the pinch hitter rule or substitute runner like rule change is so far removed from that, right? Or you know what I'm saying? Like, I realize that it's kind of an abstracted sports analogy, but yeah, that's where we're at. Players need to have a plan for their out-of-game, out-of-character feelings. And there's not really anything staff can do other than sort of understand that that's something that they're dealing with. And this is true of whether it's in-game politics or other more serious issues. You just need to communicate, be open about things, try to be collegial, professional, and be supportive of one another, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, and I understand there's two sides to this. There are people who are experiencing the bleed, and that's a real thing. We have to honor that. And then there are people who are irritated at the people experiencing bleed, and for those people, we just have to beg their indulgence. I mean, it's a problem, and hopefully we're more aware of it now as players, and hopefully we can be better with it this time. It's a challenge. It's a continual challenge.
Yeah, I would say that they should, long before the vote happens, be emotionally prepared for the vote going either way, which is something that they weren't the first time.
Well, I expected it to pass overwhelmingly. I mean, honestly, speaking as the guy who wrote the prop, I expected that to pass. And the fact that it didn't was interesting and a cool development to the story, I thought. But I understand why most of the fair expected that vote to pass. and why they felt so
But
hurt.
even if you, here's the thing, even if you expect it to be a slam dunk, I would still, if you think this is going to be an issue and bleed is an issue, and you think if this vote doesn't go my way, I'm never playing an MES again, or anything like that is a thought that has crossed your mind, you need to be emotionally prepared for the result you don't want to hear way before the vote happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then think about that. And if that's honestly something that you could say, I don't want to play in a game where that vote doesn't go my way, then I don't necessarily think the issue is the vote or the genre or anything like that. You may want to. This doesn't sound that. You may want to question whether LARPing is like the hobby for you in a group, in a very big group where things like that are perennially going to be out of your control. There's nothing wrong with being like, I'm a tabletop gamer. I like a smaller, more intimate game that's more custom tailored to my experiences, right? I like being with 4 or 5 people I know deeply, and have known since childhood, and like share everything with, and that's the kind of game I want. And maybe LARPing with 500 people, and I don't know which way the wind's gonna blow on any of these things isn't for me.
Yeah. Vivio per Stylo says, I had a conflict with a character, and something I think helped was contacting the player out of character to be like, hey, you're a cool player. If you want to talk or mediate, let me know. Absolutely. This is something also, it's important for storytellers as well. I mean, I think that's a great example, and players should honor that. It's like storytellers should remember, too. When you really shit on the players, there's no harm in some aftercare. Like, explain what happened, walk them through
It's
it.
a hell of a term to use.
It's...
Yeah, no, it's if the shoe fits.
You know? Like, just mend that, make the out-of-character relationship clear, even if in character you have to do horrible things. It's something I, as a storyteller, really strive to do whenever I crap on a player. And sometimes I have to... like, NPCs will crap on things I like. Like, there'll be things players doing, and I love what they're doing. I think I've sent at least 5 Zap posts. I think I've sent at least 5 posts on after Grandfather Thunder has zapped somebody saying, I love that post. Keep up what you're doing. This is good for the game. I love what you're doing. Also, you're taking a lot of egg.
Space it out.
That's the thing. Is like a lot of NPCs are not proxies for storytellers. NPCs will do things that you don't like. That's not us. We're just having to be the NPCs, and sometimes the NPCs do not like what you're doing, and we have to roll with that. Let's see.
Yeah, well, like I said with the other thing, communicating with each other and your staff is always best practices. You want to be open. You also want to constantly hammer in that there is a division between your character and you. Like, I've run a lot of scenes because I end up running a lot of combats where PCs get killed, or the death traps that I design at least once were then disseminated and run simultaneously across, or helped design, were simultaneously run across the entire org and had a massive death count. And that's something that, you know, I have to think about. Yeah. And then, but like to engage in. It certainly wasn't because I didn't like any of the particular people. I certainly had no control over a PC in a totally different part of the world getting got by something that I had to do.
The other thing to talk about with the votes that are coming up, one of the votes that is coming up that is scheduled to be voted on right now is going to piss people off. I do think it's going to cause people to turn on each other. I think that
which vote?
I can't say.
Oh,
but one of the votes is going to be. It's going to cause conflict.
Okay.
It's not the Pharaoh thing that players are pushing for, although it is marginally Pharaoh related. You'll know it when you see it. I think it would be very interesting if that vote passed, but the vote was propped, and we are honoring the process.
Well, there's like 4 things that are probably going to get
3 or 4. Maybe as many as 4, maybe as few as 2. It depends how things are still playing out.
Yeah. Polarizing.
No spoilers. I'm just giving you a warning that one of these things may cause you to throw a chair. So make sure all of your chairs in your house are secured before you watch the announced stream when it comes up, because one of them might make you throw a chair.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they're calm. I mean, these are. We could just look at our viewer count. We know who the core elite players are.
Just by watching this, we know that you are the best of the best.
Yes, I mean
the finest, nicest smelling people with the best looks and
the bigliest plots.
The best plots.
Yeah.
The best actors, honestly.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
people who say yes and in a way that makes me want to say yes and.
Gracious.
Gracious in victory, noble in defeat. The finest of the fine.
Really good people.
Well, maybe it's not just about you.
We have all the best and kindest and most wonderful players. Also, the Ms. Nietzsche's here. So keep that in mind.
There are exceptions, apparently. Now, we love you guys. You're why we stream. Because it's not the financial benefits.
Oh, I'd like to thank Justa Carl for hosting us as well. Very cool.
What does that mean?
On Twitch, it means they're playing us on their channel too.
Oh.
So thank you for Justa Carl. If anybody else on Twitch ever wants to host us, feel free. It helps get the word out, and we think it's really awesome. So thank you.
Yeah, this is a stream we enjoy that, while it speaks to a very specific segment of the population, tens of people care.
I think the average show at the end of the day, if you watch between live and VOD on Twitch and YouTube, probably gets about 100 people watching it, which is a pretty good number.
That's about a fifth.
Yeah.
One
out
out
of 10.
Is that the total number?
We have about 1,000 active players. Maybe more than that, but 1,000 active players.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, 1 out of 10 werewolf players prefers to talk about werewolves.
I would say we're definitely the finest Mind's Eye Society based.
Oh, people should I be doing that? I didn't know what that was up until now. So you definitely don't need to feel guilty if you weren't doing this before now. Because I didn't know that was a thing. Considering that we're generating zeros of dollars from this, I wouldn't feel particularly pressured to help us go viral or anything. Like, if we ended up on the front page of Twitch, there would just be a bunch of
really confused people. Yeah.
We'd be like, who the fuck is listening to these guys? And why? What is a mess? What is an APOC? Are they talking about werewolves?
By the name? Yes.
Yes, we are talking about werewolves. That would be the only thing they know. Is those gentlemen are talking about werewolves. But yeah, spread the love. And thank you, Justa Carl.
If you broadcast them more often, you could easily be affiliates. And if I had all the time in the world, I would do so many things. For now, you get us once every 2 weeks because that's what we can do. That's what we have to offer you.
Well, as long as most games are once, maybe twice a month. It's not really the kind of thing that we have a ton to talk about day to day.
Well, now that we've covered the entire book and everything about it, and the Minds of Society docs, if we went every week,
all except the old episodes are on YouTube.
Yes. So until stuff happens, which is usually about once a month.
I mean, we could do Q&A more often, I guess. Is there a way for us to make a Twitch poll to be like, do you guys really want to see us more often?
Well, we do have our page on Facebook. If you have if you have feedback, we would love to hear it.
It gets a post or two a month.
Just if we're talking about werewolves, it's also a good way to know when we're streaming. If you don't follow the werewolf page, we're right there. So find us on Facebook. And I love our personality and interactions as well.
I mean, I am a big fan of who I am as well. I like that.
All right, aside from you guys telling us how awesome we are.
And how awesome you are.
More importantly, how awesome you are. Because by watching this podcast tonight, you're proving that you care. And that you're a great American. Or Canadian. Or Welshman.
They're the Welsh.
You are the Welshiest of people. So, to all our Canadian and Welsh and American fans out there,
it would be good to open a non-APOC topic, Slim vid game. I mean, don't get me wrong.
We could talk about anything.
If we, as a joke, had the Cookie Clicker episode, we're still the premier Cookie Clicker podcast. I'm aware.
I would go toe-to-toe with
I would say number
Cookie
one
Clicker
of the Cookie Clicker podcasts that I'm aware of, we're number one on that list. So if we lived in a world where we had people being like, hey, there's 200 more viewers and they want to hear your opinions about video games and other role-playing or just other genres, that I would be open to that.
that being said, we've had a delightful night hanging out with you. We enjoy your company because you're good people. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Until then, get hyped for Southwest Regional event. Get hyped for the fallout for Victoria MacDougal's assassination. And just get hyped for Werewolf. Keep kicking ass out there, folks. Godspeed and have a great night.
Yeah, be well. See you in a couple weeks.
Peace.